I turned it off.
Thanks, yeah, finally. Oh, that was long. We had 3 days of presentation. I'm considering for next time, since this was the first time I did this, 2 things for everyone, the good of everyone in the class. When I make the presentation schedule for next time, I'm going to do something that I do with my undergraduate classes that are really big when we have to give presentations, which is you come on the day that you present. Okay, so you have to come 2 out of the 3 days. You come on the day that you present, and then you come one day when your partner is going to present. So you've been working with people to practice the presentation, and then your partner, you'll come the day your partner presents so that you can give them feedback about the process that you've been watching develop to prepare the presentation. So that's number 1. Number 2 is, this time I wasn't so strict about the time, and next time I'm going to be. So be prepared for that. Number 3 is that, in general, most people use the VoiceBoard tool on time to prepare their presentation. Next time, this is going to be a built-in part of your presentation grade. So part of being a successful presenter is practicing, getting feedback, and practicing again. Okay? So we're going to try for the next presentation to make better use of the VoiceBoard tool in order to practice for the presentations. One other thing that I was considering during the course of this process is that for me, it was very useful to hear you guys talk about your projects in terms of understanding your writing about those projects. So I wanted to ask you a question in terms of your learning styles. Would it be helpful for you to give the presentation before handing in the paper? Like, what does it make sense for us to do first? The writing portion or the speaking portion? Because I'm planning the next unit, and that's one of my doubts in terms of how to organize it. Writing is better for you first?
Yeah.
Okay, for me it's better to hear you and then read your writing. But I can make the adjustment for myself. Okay, I wanted to know what was better for you. Because some people, like for me, when I make a presentation, it's a better tool to organize my ideas than writing an outline, for example. I'm a talker, okay, that's my style. So for me, when I can think about how I would explain this to an audience, I'm much more efficient in organizing my thoughts than doing it on paper. That's not everyone's style. Okay, so I wanted to ask you guys, what was your style? People feel like writing first, speaking second. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Good information. All right. You guys look lovely. Diego, you have to save the day again. Okay, well while he's getting this set up, we are going to briefly look at the format that I would like for you guys to use for your self-evaluation. Okay?
Yeah.
For those of you who have not picked up a copy of the DVD, you need to do that. Your self-evaluation is due for Friday. Okay? So, what does this entail? Number 1, you're obviously going to watch your presentation. Okay? I know this is painful. I feel the same way when I'm collecting my thesis data. I'm doing interviews with my students, and I don't even have to. Some of it's video and some of it's voice recording, and I listen to myself and I'm like, oh my god, that's what I sound like in Spanish. So that's like such a shock to the system. I didn't think that that's what I talked like. And then you hear your errors and you're like, oh no, get this out. But you have to do it. That's how you figure out what you need to improve on. And I have some guidelines for you to things for you to think about as you're watching your presentation, okay? You will necessarily need to listen to yourself probably at least 3 times, okay? So when you're thinking about how much time do I need to do this exercise, consider that. Like, it's going to take you at least an hour to do this exercise. Come on, man. Let's try to explore it. Yes? It says my name? No, that part of my life is taken care of. Okay, so if we go to Sikua, we can observe in the week 5 folder, there's only one item since we've done no exercises this week. So go to content, go to week 5. And it says self-evaluation of presentation. I would like to know, someone should do a study about, how technology is supposed to help us. I also would like to know how much time on average in each class at the university is spent with doing things like this, where you're like, where is the file? Why is this not working? Turn on the video game. Why is it not project? These kinds of problems. It would be an interesting study for any of you who are mathematical. Okay, so there are 6 tasks that I'm asking you to do. Some of them are shorter than others, okay? All of them are going to require that you watch the presentation. There are 2 kinds of watching or listening that you're going to do when you're evaluating yourself. One is a general kind, okay? So we've talked about this before. You're just going to listen to yourself, and in the first task, you're going to make some general observations about your presentation. So first listening, you're just listening generally, and what do you notice right away without thinking of any guidelines, okay? I want you to be critical, but I also want you to be complimentary, okay? So focus on, not only you're like, oh man, that sounded terrible, I did that bad, this was a terrible presentation, me da mucha pena verme en esa camarita, okay? That's not the focus. You should be focusing on successes and points to improve upon, okay? So I want number 1 to be balance. Task number 2, it says, how will you improve the aspects of your presentations, of the presentation style you critiqued? Okay, so you made some criticisms of yourself. Now I want to know, what are you going to do it better? What are your suggestions for yourself? Okay, so this is where you guys are going to need to be autonomous and creative and think about, okay, I have this problem, now what am I going to do to fix it? How often am I going to do a speaking exercise, or a grammar exercise, or a pronunciation exercise, or a feedback exercise, or a self-analysis exercise to work on that aspect of my presentation? So it's not just identify what's wrong, but make a plan for how you're going to improve upon that point. Okay, number 3, create an outline of your presentation according to what you see, not according to what you think you presented. Okay? Because those are different. I know that for me, sometimes I have my whole plan organized, and then something occurs to me while I'm presenting, and then I start talking about a different point, and then I come back to the organization that I had originally written. Notice, what are the the difference is between what you thought, the order of thoughts that you thought you were going to present, and then what you actually did. Okay? Task 4 asks you to make that comparison. So what do you notice in terms of the organization of your presentation? Maybe you forgot something, maybe you included extra information, maybe you talked way too long in the contextualization when this was really about the methodology. Make some observations there. B, was there a clearly marked contextualization, data collection, and data analysis section? Okay? In this presentation, our focus was not to make conclusions, so we weren't looking for that. What we were looking for was this information. Was it present? Was it clear? Okay? C, what strategies did you use to make the organization of the presentation clear to your audience? So not clear to yourself, but clear to your audience. Strategies like choosing clear, short headings for your slides. Strategies like using transition words. These kinds of things make the organizational scheme of your presentation clear to your audience. Some of you did what we call a preview slide at the very beginning of your presentation. So a preview, meaning you say, I'm going to talk about this, and then I'll discuss that, and then finally I'll discuss this. So before you even start, you give your audience an outline of what you will talk about. This is an effective strategy. Some people used it, some people didn't. Okay, so notice that. Task 4, go back and listen to the part of your presentation where you describe a procedure. Okay, so if you do this multiple times throughout your presentation, just choose one part. I would like for you to create a list of phrases which you use, basically to show the transitions between these steps of the procedure. This was one of our linguistic goals or our language goals for this presentation. I want you to see, did you do it? Okay, did you use words like first, second, then, after that, finally, following? So words that are sequencing, right? Listen, and this is a kind of listening that's not looking for the overall message, but it's looking for specific pieces of language. So this is linguistic analysis of yourself that you're doing. Write down the specific words that you hear yourself use. And if you don't hear yourself use any, that should also tell you something. Okay? Task 5, were there any parts of your presentation that were unclear? If so, reflect on what factor you think made this so. How will you change this next time? Okay? So some of you will watch yourselves and you'll notice that you're struggling to express what you really wanted to express. Or you'll listen to yourself and you'll say, oh, well, I should have said it like this. That wasn't very clear. Try to identify what it was that made you struggle in explaining that part. Was it lack of vocabulary? Was it that you didn't organize your ideas? Was it the fact that you don't really understand it well enough to explain it yet? Sometimes that's the problem, no? So try to identify what was the factor that caused that lack of clarity. Was it pronunciation? Could be any number of things. And then lastly, there's one more task. And this is the hard part. This is what's going to take you some really detailed, thoughtful listening. I would like for you to listen for other linguistic elements of methodologies that we examined during this unit. Okay? Try to identify as many examples of each that you can. So, verbs in passive voice, infinitives of purpose, adverbs of manner. If you go to the bottom of this document, there's an annex that has reminders about what each of these kinds of language were. Okay? So this is going to take some very, very detailed listening to try to identify the use of these linguistic elements that we studied in this unit. Okay? Some of you are going to find that you have 0 examples for some of the categories. But the most commonly, everyone has an example at least of verbs in passive voice and infinitives of purpose. Like, in order to, as a way to measure, define, to explore, to describe. Okay? So these ones are very present in your presentations. These passive voice verbs are somewhat present for some people. You'll notice that not everybody did such a good job of using the passive voice. And then this one is a little bit more rare. Okay? So try to find at least 2 or 3 examples of when you use passive voice, infinitives of purpose, and perhaps adverbs of manner. This is hard, this is time consuming, and I need you to do it. Okay? For Friday. Do it for Friday. Okay? We have an exam Friday. It's not going to be hard. Exam Friday. This Friday, exam. It's what? I mentioned that last week.
No.
Okay, would you like to postpone it till Monday? It's not going to make a difference. It's not something that you're going to study content for. It's just a review of things that we've talked about already in this unit. There's a listening exercise, there's a couple of grammar exercises, there's a speaking exercise.
All on Friday.
Yeah.
Monday.
Monday?
Friday.
Friday. I mean, you guys are not going to study for it anyways.
It's only one day.
Let's be honest.
Only one day is this.
Only one day. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? You guys are going to go study for your English exam? Yeah?
On Sunday.
Exactly. So Friday, I'm sorry, I thought I made that clear last week, but it says on the schedule, exam week 5 in the chronograma. So week 5 in the chronograma, which is in your syllabus, which I gave you at the beginning of the... Nadie lo usa? ¿Diferencia? Okay, anyway, Friday, short exam, bring your self-analysis and questions. I will get those to printed copy by as soon as possible. I'm going to take a title right now and be like, please, can you do me a favor and get it done fast because my students need it. Okay? The ones for if you guys go probably after lunch, it will be there. Okay? For the presentations for today. After lunch. Yeah. Okay. Questions? All right. See you guys Friday.
Nicole, can I stop this?
Myself, yes.